And I think there are a few reasons, quite frankly, that got me to the point of running for city council. In no particular order, I started to notice some odd decisions being made here in Newton about 2 years ago. I think a lot of people are familiar with the process that the city's gone through in designing the new senior center, or NewCal. And I really got involved in that conversation when the city wanted to build or site the new senior center in the middle of Albemarle Field, which I thought was a really that was a bit of a head scratcher for me. That one didn't make sense to me. So that really got me kind of on this track. And since then, in paying much, much more attention to what's been going on, what I've found is there are a lot of residents, a lot of taxpayers here in Newton who don't feel like they're being involved in the process. They feel ignored, perhaps as a group, their interests aren't being met, or their individual voices aren't even being included in the conversation. And I think that that's a really big challenge. And I hope we get to talk about a little bit more about that today. And I think it's also important to note that residents here are really, really passionate about Newton and all the things going on here. And sometimes those passions can get really divisive. And I'd like to contribute to the process by which we can try and make those conversations, or turn that passion and channel that passion into something a little bit more productive, ideally. So those are the primary reasons that I'm running.
So for me, what's driving me is a couple things. I think first and foremost, I grew up in a Newton that espoused a lot of values of inclusivity, of progressivism, of diversity, generosity. These are commitments that we've made and we care about. But I think when it comes time for us to really act on those commitments, to, embrace bold, brave leadership for other cities and towns to follow, we kind of fail to walk the walk and not really follow through. And I think that's something that, young residents, change makers and advocates on various issues recognize. And I think, there's a sense of urgency now. The clock's ticking on a lot of really important issues, whether it's, widespread racial injustice, the climate crisis, our housing shortage. And I think that sense of urgency is really driving me. I think another really big reason that motivated me is, as a young resident of Newton, our city council is over 2/3, a super majority of residents over the age of 50. And, while they're all committed public servants, by consequence of that makeup, young residents don't see our city council, our local government, as a vehicle for change that represents them, because they don't get action on the advocacy that they do, on the issues that they care about. And so I'm hoping to set a precedent and to bring, issues facing young residents to the table, whether it's youth mental health access or, lowering our voting age, things like that are really driving young people and getting us excited, but we just don't have, that advocacy at the local level to really follow through.
I am running because I am deeply committed to public service and have the experience to use the tools of government to make a positive impact on the life of every person who lives here, especially those who are most in need. If people remember 3 things about me, I want them to be experience, values, and leadership. This is a community that voted overwhelmingly for Joe Biden in November. I know that Newton believes that experience matters, that values matter, that leadership matters. I have the experience to speak knowledgeably and with a breadth of understanding nobody else in this race can match, and I'll keep listening and learning as your counselor. I have not just espoused inclusive progressive values, I've lived them. I show up and I will always show up. And I've led on the issues that we need to navigate here in Newton, from the environment to housing to racial justice to education, and I'm prepared to lead us forward. And that's the difference in this race. They're not just words on a website for me. I have the track record of where I stand and how I lead. And I think that's why I have the support of over 40 current and former elected officials, including the majority of our city council and our school committee.
I did run in 2019 and I did not win, but I had a very good showing in small pockets of the city. And I just want to build on what I did in 2019 here in 2021. I want to be a leader in the direction that this city takes going forward. I want to be a voice for the community. And I believe my background, skills, and experience makes me the most qualified candidate in this race to be on the Newton City Council.
I'm running because first, I think local politics is probably the most effective form of politics to make change and to shape the community that you live in. And I think there's some things that, Newton can do better to sort of, grow as a community that better serves the current residents and also is more accessible to people that want to move here.